goes down. My goodness.
Bria Hartley diving into the knees of Sophie Cunningham. Now, we know that play has since went viral.
This is the play that just occurred.
Looks like she tries to slide over right there, and Hartley.
That photo made people see red. A smirk at the worst possible moment. But before the internet lit the match, Caitlin Clark set the tone. This team battles, period. If you know anything about Clark, you know she's old school, handle business, protect your own, and let the scoreboard talk. She wasn't on the floor that night, but her voice cut through the noise. Pride in the locker room, love for her teammates, zero appetite for excuses. That's where this story starts, because when Caitlin speaks, the Fever listen, and the league should too. Hit the hardwood and everything paused. It was one of those sickening moments you feel in your stomach before your brain catches up. The drive, the collision, the knee grabbing, then the silence that tells you this isn't just a routine bump.
He just kind of falls and makes collision with that lower leg. You see her immediately grab it. And she went down hard and was clearly in a lot of pain.
Sophie tried to get up, couldn't, tried again, and then the reality landed. She was done for the night. You didn't need the slow-mo to understand the pain. The look on her face said enough.
To Mohegan Sun Arena, scary moment as we went to commercial. Sophie Cunningham hit the floor.
And a season already held together with tape suddenly felt like it might split. Now here's where the fuse really caught. Cameras panned and there it was. Bria Hartley with what looked like a grin as Sophie was being helped off. A single frame, a single expression, and the internet did what the internet does. People clipped it, looped it, screenshotted it, and built a verdict in minutes. For a lot of fans, that one image didn't just add to the story, it became the story. Not the angle of the collision, not the speed or intent, not the official swallowing the whistle. The smirk, the vibe, the what are we even doing here of it all. Caitlin Clark didn't posture or play politician. She didn't write a thread, point fingers, or add fuel. She put up a short message that said more than a speech: battled, battled, battled. So proud. That's it. That's leadership. That's the tone of a locker room that refuses to splinter. And it matters because leadership shapes the narrative before the outside world can twist it. Clark's reaction wasn't performative rage. It was a standard. Protect your teammate. Demand accountability. Win the night anyway. But that wasn't the whole story, because what happened on the play still matters. Hartley drove hard, bodies converged, and momentum carried straight into Sophie's leg. The frame-by-frame tells one truth. Contact with Sophie's lower leg, the immediate grab, the collapse. The real-time speed tells another. Chaos in the lane, a borderline angle, a late step that never should have happened. You can argue about intent all day. You can't argue about the result. A player was hurt, badly shaken, and the officials didn't even pause to review. That's where a lot of people lost patience, not merely at the contact, but at the indifference that followed it. Then there's the context. The viral smirk didn't hit an empty room. It hit an audience already familiar with Hartley's heat check style. Tough, scrappy, and sometimes tipping into reckless. Fans pulled receipts. The hair yank with Angel Reese. Dust-ups with vets. Frustration fouls that crossed the line. One incident on its own might look like adrenaline. A string of them builds a pattern, fair or not. When people saw the grin, they didn't see an isolated reaction. They saw a highlight reel of bad blood and asked the simplest question in sports: where's the line? Sophie's family had questions too. Her sister spoke up about the officiating. Her mom, in the emotional heat of the moment, went even harder before pulling her post. And whether you agree with the tone or not, the heart of their frustration rang true for many fans. The league says it protects players, so prove it. A scary knee collision shouldn't glide by without a serious look on the monitors. This isn't about manufacturing drama, it's about setting a clear standard. If you want stars to thrive, you can't allow my bad moments to become oh well policies. And yet, out of that chaos, something old-fashioned happened. The kind of thing Caitlin Clark has built her identity on since college. Indiana refused to fold. The night easily could have imploded. No Clark on the floor, Sophie gone, the deficit heavy, the opponent brutal. Instead, Kelsey Mitchell detonated. Second half flamethrower. Every big possession, she stepped into it like it was hers by right, not by chance. Aaliyah Boston went to work in the trenches, grabbing everything that bounced and steadying the pulse. Odyssey Sims shifted gears and gave them control when they needed it most. Lexi Hull hit the kind of corner three you remember years later. Suddenly, the script flipped. From "this could break the season" to "this might define it." Back in that locker room, the message from Coach Stephanie White landed like a promise. We don't count ourselves out. We don't fracture when it gets ugly. And the replies from the players told you who they are. Pride for each other, gratitude, humor as glue. It's what separates a highlight team from a backbone team. You can buy talent. You can't fake chemistry. The Fever walked out with a win that meant more than a number in the standings. It was proof that their culture is bigger than any single moment, even a moment as charged as this one. Still, we've got to come back to the image because the title of this story is the title of this video: Photo versus the play. The photo is a spark, instant, emotional, explosive. The play is the substance, angle, momentum, responsibility, and consequences. You need both to tell the truth. The problem is that social media rarely cares about both. A smirk, whether it's exhaustion, nerves, adrenaline, or something worse, will never read neutral when someone's being helped off the court. It will always read as disrespect. Does that mean we should throw out the full context? No. But it does mean that players who live on the edge have less benefit of the doubt when optics turn ugly. Here's the blunt, old-school take. You don't smirk when someone's hurt. Not in youth ball, not in pickup, not in the pros. Even if you didn't mean it that way. Even if you were smiling at a teammate, cracking a nervous grin, or reacting to something off camera. The code is simple. Respect the game, respect the opponent. If you want grace in the gray areas, you earn it with conduct that leaves no question marks. That's how the vets did it. That's how the legends still do it. When you carry yourself with that standard, the world doesn't have to guess what you meant. They already know. Now, if you're asking what Caitlin Clark would want next, it's not complicated. She'd want a review of the play. She'd want clear language from the league about what's acceptable at the rim and what isn't. She'd want the genie put back in the bottle on "let them play," when "let them play" turns into "let them get hurt." And then she'd want tip-off. Because nothing answers controversy like a box score that says your culture is stronger than the noise. Let's talk officiating for a second. The W is more physical than casual fans realize. Angles, hip checks, hand fights, clever bumps. It's also in a moment where star power is surging and audiences are multiplying by the week. Those two truths demand a third: consistent enforcement. You can't sell "protect our stars" one day and swallow the whistle the next. You can't champion growth while sending the message that borderline collisions won't even get a look on the monitor. Accountability isn't anti-toughness, it's the backbone of tough, fair basketball. So what should happen with Hartley? If you're asking for this channel's opinion, yes, you review it, and yes, you consider discipline. Not just because of the collision in isolation, but because of the aggregate picture. Because the smirk poured gasoline on everything that came before it, and optics do matter when you represent a league that's trying to win over new fans every night. More importantly, you send a message across every locker room. Play hard, but respect the line. The league's job isn't to erase physicality, it's to keep it from becoming recklessness disguised as grit. There's another angle here, and it's uncomfortable but necessary: fan behavior. Too many timelines celebrated an injury because of team loyalties and petty online feuds. That's schmoody. You can boo a rival and still hope they get up healthy. You can despise a brand and still want the athletes to walk without a limp. If we're going to demand better from players and refs, we can demand better from ourselves too. Respect is part of the ecosystem. Without it, the sport curdles into content and the humanity of the people in the jerseys gets lost. Back to Sophie. Her tweets after the game told you everything about her wiring. Pride for her teammates, no self-pity, no scoreboard watching. That's old-world toughness in a modern league. She didn't need to subtweet Hartley or pile on, the fans already did that. What she did was elevate Kelsey Mitchell, celebrate the comeback, and align with her coach's message: we're together. That posture matters for a team navigating injuries and expectations. It keeps the room clean and the mission focused. And what about Hartley? There's a fork in the road every player with a reputation eventually reaches. You can lean into the villain role, shrug, smirk, and dare people to stop you. Or you can draw a line, own the gray, and reset the standard for yourself. Neither path is easy. One buys you attention and boos, the other buys you respect. Only one lasts. If she wants to rewrite the narrative, it starts with the next contested drive, the next box out, the next moment when the emotions spike. How you carry yourself when the camera finds you, because it will. Either repairs trust or torches it. Here's the truth that should make everyone a little uncomfortable. The photo and the play both matter, and neither alone tells the whole story. The collision requires accountability. The smirk requires humility. The combination requires leadership, first from the league, then from the locker rooms, then from us as fans. And yes, the game itself had the last word. Indiana didn't just survive, they answered. They fought back with pace, poise, and shot-making that ripped the oxygen out of the building. They turned a night that could have defined them by pain into one that defined them by resolve. That's the version of the W that wins people over. Skill, courage, and a team that refuses to accept the script handed to it. Caitlin Clark will get back on the floor, and when she does, the target on Indiana's back will be even bigger. That's the price of being relevant in a league that's growing in real time. But nights like this teach you what travel days and film sessions can't. They teach you what your jersey really means. They teach you who you are when someone else writes the headline for you, and how to take that pen back by the fourth quarter. So where do we land? Start here, review the play, make a call. If it meets the threshold, deliver the suspension. If it doesn't, explain why in language that any kid at home can understand. Then publish the standard. Clarity is not optional when stakes are this high. After that, the responsibility shifts. Players, check the heat without losing the edge. Referees, elevate the awareness when bodies collide at awkward angles. Coaches, protect your locker rooms and keep the main thing the main thing. Fans, push for fairness without cheering for someone's pain. Because the WNBA is at the doorstep of something big, and nights like this are stress tests for the foundation. You can't control every collision or every camera angle. You can control the culture around them. Caitlin Clark understands that. It's why her message was pride, not pyrotechnics. It's why Indiana's response was basketball, not excuses. That's how you grow a sport, by choosing substance over spectacle when the heat rises. This channel isn't asking the league to become soft. We're asking it to be strong where it matters most. Strong enough to say, we protect our players. We review dangerous plays. We don't shrug when someone grabs a knee. We don't smile at injuries. We hold a line. That's not politics. That's principle. And it's the kind of principle that turns casual viewers into lifers. So here's our final word to Bria Hartley, to the Fever, to the league, and to anyone who loves this game. Play hard, respect the badge, respect the opponent. Win the debates with the ball in your hands, not with viral moments that cheapen the craft. If the picture was misunderstood, say it and show it. If the play crossed the line, own it and fix it. The game has room for toughness and class. Choose both. If you're still here, you're our people. Drop your take in the comments. Should Hartley be suspended for the Cunningham collision, or was it a bad accident made worse by a bad look? How should the league change review protocols to protect players without slowing the game to a crawl? And for Fever fans, what's the biggest lesson from that comeback? Mitchell's takeover, Boston's control, Sim's tempo, or the culture Coach White keeps preaching? Hit like if you believe the standard should be higher, subscribe if you want coverage that refuses to tiptoe around the real issues. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next, because the next time the Fever take the floor with Caitlin back, with Sophie on the mend, with everyone watching, the conversation won't be about a frame. It'll be about 40 minutes. And when the lights go up and the ball goes down, that's where truth lives. There's another truth about optics that veterans know in their bones. A still frame can lie. Not because the camera is wrong, but because a frozen second rips expression out of the flow. Anyone who's ever competed has worn faces they didn't mean. Nervous grins, clenched smiles, blank stares that read as cold. That's real. But that's exactly why the code exists. When a player is down, you don't give the camera ambiguity. You give it respect. You check on your opponent. You look at the bench. You keep your hands off the theatrics. The game isn't just points and schemes, it's signals. And when you send the wrong signal in the worst moment, people won't wait for nuance. They'll write the headline for you. This is where Caitlin Clark's approach matters beyond highlights. She's not in love with drama. She's in love with standards. That's why her message landed: pride first, excuses never. Keep going. Leadership sounds romantic until it gets tested. Then it sounds like 5 words typed on a phone. Battled, 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 so proud. That's not a speech, that's a spine. It says, we look after our own, we won't get baited into chaos. We'll answer the only way that counts. Let's talk fixes, because yelling at clouds isn't a plan. First, automatic reviews for lower leg collisions that cause a player to exit, period. Not just for flagrant elbows or above the shoulders contact. Knees and seasons. If a drive collapses a defender's leg and that player can't continue, the crew should be required to look at it. Second, consistent language the audience can understand. If an action isn't flagrant by the rulebook, explain it clearly. If it is reckless by the standard, say so and act. Third, post-game accountability windows. In a league that wants clarity and trust, there should be a transparent path to upgrade or issue discipline after full-speed moments are studied, frame by frame. No mystery, no maybe, just a standard you can teach to youth teams. There's a cultural fix too. When a player gets hurt, there are 3 simple gestures that reset a room: a hand extended, a word to the bench, and a public acknowledgement after the game. None of that makes you soft. It makes you credible. If Hartley meant nothing by that look, say it plainly. If she regrets the optics, own it. A single sentence can stop a bonfire from becoming a forest fire. The vets do this instinctively because they've lived through misreads before. They know you can compete like a bulldog and still show respect like a pro. Fans, you've got a role here as well. Outrage can be righteous, but it shouldn't be gleeful when someone's knee buckles. There's a line between demanding accountability and celebrating pain. Cross that and you're not protecting the sport, you're cheapening it. The W isn't growing because people learn to dunk on each other online, it's growing because the product is authentic. Skill, intensity, rivalries with history. Hold players and refs to a standard without turning injury into a meme. Zoom out to the Fever's identity and you see why that comeback hit like a thunderclap. Kelsey Mitchell's second-half takeover wasn't just hot shooting, it was a declaration. Every team needs a closer, and she wrote it in ink. Aaliyah Boston's work in the trenches was the ballast. Odyssey Sims gave them tempo and nerve. Lexi Hull's shot was the permission slip to believe. Stack those pieces and you get the shape of a team that won't be defined by absences. That's the part of the story Caitlin Clark keeps reinforcing without fanfare. We're not a one-woman show, we're a program. When stars rotate out, standards rotate in. Old school basketball heads nod at that because it's how good teams outlast storms, with roles that harden, not crumble. There's also a psychology lesson buried in nights like these. When a team watches a teammate go down, the next few possessions decide the emotional truth of the room. You either go quiet, or you answer with pace, stops, and clean execution. Indiana chose violence in the basketball sense. Relentless drives, crisp kickouts, hardened closeouts. That's why the locker room words felt earned, not performative. Coach White didn't have to sell a dream. She named a reality they built possession by possession. That's how trust gets banked for the next crisis. Back to photo versus the play, because we promise to keep both in frame. The play demands the league's eyes. Footwork, angle, force, responsibility at the point of collision. Those details determine whether this was reckless or just ugly. The photo demands the player's voice, explain the moment, show respect, and reset the temperature. One requires rulebook precision. The other requires human maturity. Handle both, and you model the kind of league the W wants to be: fast, physical, and principled. And what does the next chapter look like? Picture this. Caitlin returns, the Fever tighten the screws, Sophie's rehab updates start to trickle in, and the schedule doesn't get kinder. That's where edges become advantages. Indiana now owns a signature win built on resilience, not celebrity. Opponents know they can't just outmuscle them. They have to outdiscipline them too. The Fever can lean into a defensive identity that travels board work from Boston, backbone from Sims, flamethrower scoring from Mitchell, and Clark's gravity bending the court. That's a combination that punishes lazy switches and dares bigs to defend in space for 40 minutes. There's a legacy element at stake here. The W is onboarding waves of new fans who are still learning the personalities, the grudges, the unwritten rules. Nights like this are their first lesson in what the league stands for. Do we let bad luck moments define players, or do we insist on standards that turn heat into clarity? Do we shrug at injuries as the cost of doing business, or do we sharpen the tools that keep athletes safe without neutering the product? These aren't small questions, they're foundation questions. Get them right, and the sport doesn't just grow, it matures. One more word to Bria Hartley, said with the respect the game deserves. You're a competitor. Nobody doubts that. But reputations are compound interest. Every choice pays or charges. If you want out of this narrative, you don't need a PR script. You need a consistent run of clean, hard basketball and visible respect in heated moments. The next time someone goes down, be first to kneel. The next time a camera finds you, let it find seriousness, not ambiguity. The fastest way to kill a story like this is to leave it nothing to eat. And to Sophie Cunningham, every athlete hates this part. The waiting, the tests, the noise outside. You already set the tone with how you celebrated your teammates. That's leadership without a jersey on. However fast or slow the timeline, that same posture will carry weight in the room and in the fan base. People remember how you fight, not just how you score. Here's where we land firm and fair. Review the play, publish the reasoning. If discipline is warranted, do it. If it isn't, teach why. Reinforce the standard so the next crew of officials doesn't miss the moment. Players embrace the hard truth that optics matter when bodies are on the line. Fans demand better without cheering harm. And teams take Indiana's cue. When the night turns ugly, turn the game cleaner. Precision beats chaos. Culture beats headlines. 40 minutes beats one frame. Drop your take below. Automatic reviews on lower leg collisions. Yes or no? Should repeat reckless incidents carry escalating penalties? And which part of Indiana's response impressed you most? Mitchell's takeover, Boston's control, Sim's swagger, or the bench's belief? Tap like if you ride for standards. Subscribe if you want coverage that values the game's soul as much as the score. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the follow-up. Because when the Fever roll out again, this won't be about a screenshot. It'll be about a statement. That's basketball the way it's always been. Tough, honest, and decided where it should be on the floor.